Hello there and welcome back. Indeed, welcome for the first time to those who've just dived in to see this particular video. My name is Eamon Killian. I've been doing a short set of video tutorials on how to get started using the excellent IBM Softlayer for all your cloud needs. What I've been covering so far has been fairly in-depth at stages. We've touched on some Docker, we've touched on some machines, virtual machines, storage, etc. Indeed, in the very last video tutorial, we covered how to set up network attached storage. And we will be using this network attached storage very soon, but I thought I'd segue at this stage to introduce Vyatta. So what is Vyatta? Well, Vyatta is a software-based virtual router, virtual firewall, and it has a series of VPN products for IP networks, both IPv4 and IPv6. So what does that actually mean? What does it allow you to do? Well, one of the core features of IBM Softlayer and one of the uniques is that you can actually rent on an hourly or a monthly basis bare metal machines. We have covered installing software on some virtual machines previously. But we've always chosen to take the standard ones. We're going to start moving into some more deep configurations over the course of the next several tutorials. And I thought it would be an apt moment to segue into Vyatta and actually using Vyatta on Softlayer. But of course, if you've never come across Vyatta before and you've never used Vyatta before, it can be somewhat daunting. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you how I got started using Vyatta by using the rather excellent tool of VirtualBox. VirtualBox will allow us to create a network on my Mac here, or if you're using Windows, on your Windows server, and to install a Vyatta and to then configure up some virtual machines as well within VirtualBox, and then to show how they can use the Vyatta as a router to route between one and the other network. So what we're actually going to cover is, or our plan of attack here, is to obtain the VyOS image from the old internet, to obtain and install VirtualBox, to grab a Windows 7 VirtualBox. Again, if you've never used VirtualBox, this could come in quite handy to actually see how you do these things. Then we're going to grab some Linux. I'm going to use damn small Linux because it's only about 50-60 meg. We're going to configure VirtualBox for private networking so that we can use host-only adapters. And I'm going to configure one Class B address on a private 172.16. and one private Class C address on a 192.168. Then we're going to create a new VirtualBox machine and install VyOS, or we're going to install Vyatta. We're going to change the VyOS, so we're going to go through some early configurations. It would be exactly the same as doing this on Softlayer. So we're going to change the root user, we're going to set up a host name, we're going to set up a domain name. We're then going to set up the interfaces. Then we're going to go back and boot our Windows 7 VirtualBox and our damn small Linux VirtualBox. Each of those will be on a different network. One of them will be on the 192.168 that we set up, and one will be on the 172.16. We're then going to show, perfectly naturally, that they can't ping each other because there's no routing. Then we're going to go back onto our Vyatta and set up static routes on our VyOS, on our Vyatta, for those two networks. And then we're going to show how you can ping those machines because our Vyatta will be acting as our router. So that will, summarizing all of that, show how you can use, install, configure a Vyatta machine to be your router, and then we will start to build on that in subsequent videos to show how you can use Vyatta within IBM Softlayer to essentially do all kinds of crazy. You can set up a huge network on the Softlayer infrastructure and leverage the properties and capabilities of Vyatta so that you can set up all sorts of intricate networks to effectively mirror how you do things within your own physical environment, but you can then do it within IBM Softlayer. And Vyatta is a core tool to get used to within IBM Softlayer. Of course, once you have your Vyatta configured and you're using it within VirtualBox, you can also start to learn more advanced techniques around Vyatta and VyOS, things like ACLs and setting up VPN connections. So we'll be covering those as well. But at the moment, this is my plan of attack, and hopefully this will go off without a hitch, and it will provide you with some early introduction on how to use a Vyatta, albeit within VirtualBox, and then we will move down the line to using Vyatta with exactly the same commands on IBM Softlayer. Thanks very much. Let's get started with grabbing some VyOS from the old interweb. So, welcome back. I just thought to myself, you know what, a picture would paint 1,000 words here, and there was 1,000 words, as you can see on the previous screen. So let's take a pause for breath before we start downloading these packages to picture in our minds what it is we're about to configure. So, as you can see here, we're going to have a Vyatta, a virtual router, which is going to be running VyOS Community Edition. We're going to create two networks, a 172 and a 192 network. We're going to configure two interfaces on the Vyatta, one being on the 172 network and one being on the 192 network. So ETH0 and ETH1. We're then going to instance a DSL, damn small Linux machine, version 4.4, and we're going to configure an Ethernet interface on there. This could be via DHCP, or we could configure it by hand to be on the 172.16 network. We're going to ping between these two machines, between these two interfaces, to show that that's actually up and running and working. We're then going to configure a Windows 7 machine and give it an ETH0, not an ETH1, which will be on the 192.168 network, and that will be pinging its 192 partner on the 192 network on the Vyatta. Then we're going to configure routing on this Vyatta so that we can actually ping between these two machines, so that we can actually get a ping working between these two machines. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and we should get a response back from that machine. Whoops. So that's what we're about today. Pictorially, that shows how we're going to do it. So what we're going to need to do first is we're going to need VirtualBox. This is where you go to get VirtualBox. If you've never actually installed it before, you will download it from here. If you're on Windows, or you're on Mac, or you're on a Linux machine, or indeed even a Solaris machine, you can download it from here. For me, I'm on Yosemite, so I'd click on this link and it would download that actual virtual machine. Next, you're going to need VyOS, which you get from this address. To get the software, you will need to pick the virtual 32-bit VyOS image here, the ISO here. So next, you'll need damn small Linux if you're going to follow this tutorial closely. Again, this is the address here. There's pre-built virtual boxes, and you can download damn small 4410 from this address here. And lastly, if you didn't know already, Microsoft now actually at modern.ie allow you to download virtual machines with Internet Explorer on there, and you can actually have a pre-configured VBox machine for Windows. In this instance, I've downloaded a Windows 7 machine. You would just pick it from here, whichever one you want to actually do. I chose, I think it was IE10 on Win 7, and then you choose whatever platform you're on. So I'm on VirtualBox for Mac, and that will download the image. So download VirtualBox, download your ISO 32-bit virtual image from VyOS, download a damn small Linux machine, and download a Windows 7 machine. Once you've got those machines, you will then have a folder that looks pretty much like this. I've actually unzipped the DSL here, but you will have a downloads folder that looks pretty much like this. And that basically will give you the building blocks that you're going to need to follow the rest of this tutorial. Thanks very much. Join me in part 2. Now that we have all of the images down, we will start to get things configured. My name's Eamon Killian. Thanks for watching part 1.